Hey, welcome everybody. Once again, I'm here, Ralph McDaniels, Video Music Box, and I love to sit down and have like these kind of fireside kind of talks with people that got something to say and can articulate it properly. I don't want to sound like the OG in the room, but JSWISS, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for being here, sitting down, listening to the album, deep diving.
Yes.
I mean, you were a legend, a hip-hop staple.
Yes.
So it means something. To make a project that has you willing to sit down here and do this talk means a lot already. So I appreciate it.
You know, I don't look at myself in that way, but people often say to me, like, Ralph, you don't do certain things. I'm like, I'm not consciously doing that. It just happens. But this, I mean, we met a year ago, and you invited folks over to the crib, and and you played some music and invited some good people. And big up to Kim Newby, who invited me and said, "Hey, you need to check this guy out." And I listened to your music, and I was like, okay, it felt to me, like something I was familiar with,
Got you. Cool.
And I like the subjects, and what I noticed about this, you never really know, is that you really kind of hone in on family, and it's a theme.
It's definitely a theme. I had like a song, like my parents are super big supporters. I share everything early with them, and there's a song on this album that was probably I was the most anxious to share with them, of any song that I've put out in 15 years. Talking about family transparently, talking about loss of family. Yeah. So we get into that for sure.
And how important? Let's go in a little bit deeper, because were your family musicians? Are they in the music business? Are they teachers?
I definitely have music in my blood.
Okay.
Actually on both sides. So I'll start with my mom. My mom has a brother, my Uncle Greg. He's been singing in groups and even review throwback groups from the
70s, kind of 60s, 70s
and stuff, and he even does that today.
Oh, that's dope.
He has an amazing voice. They would say he kind of sounded like Philip Bailey. He could get high enough to hit those notes, up there. So on that side, I have him. On my dad's side, me, my dad, and his father have all performed at the Apollo Theater.
Wow.
I think my grandfather more than both of us. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, he early on, he was in the circuit, the gospel groups. It was a group called the Spiritual Heirs out of Columbia, South Carolina. Yeah. The same circuit that Sam Cooke, when he was singing in the groups before he was solo, they were touring the same type.
You got a lot of roots,
bro. So I got it in my roots. Yeah.
Yeah, man, because you just said spirituality, and that's what I got out of it. I was like, the ancestors are going to be happy when they listen to this piece of material, and you also have a hip hop jazz thing that you got going on, if we can call it that, if that's what it is, and I appreciate that, because growing up in Queens, specifically South Jamaica, Queens, we had some of the great jazz artists who moved out there, and they lived in the area, and that's why you get Q-Tip and this music that he listened to coming up, and thus A Tribe Called Quest.
Rest in peace to friend.
Fife.
Fife, and even, I don't know if you know Casey Benjamin.
Oh, yes.
From out in Queens.
Yes.
Who was, and I talk about, loss on this album, and he's a family friend I've known since I was 11, 10 years old.
Oh, really?
That I got a chance to tour internationally with for the first time last year in France.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about the loss that I've gone through in the past few years that I put in the album, he's one of those. Too, from that lineage.
We've all gone through loss, and I think that's why I can relate to that. When you talk about that in quite a bit of the songs, you're like, man, there's so much loss here. I'm kind of in a depression, but I don't know if I am, and what do I do? How to get out of it? You kind of say that. Let's talk about that. How do you deal with that in creating this? Because you're creating that. We're coming out of pandemic.
Yeah,
there was a lot going on. The world's kind of all over the place. Still, to me, it's all over the place.
And I know it's, like you said, we're all going through it. So it's not crazy unique. But for me personally, I mean, the last solo album I put out was 2019. And I would say from 2018 up until just a few months ago, 99% of the loss that I've experienced in my life happened in that period.
Really?
I was fortunate that up until 2018, I had lost almost nobody that I loved in my life. And then since 2018 till now, older family members you kind of expected, older family members you didn't expect, friends I went to school with, Casey being kind of like a big brother, still unexpected, like every type of loss, family that only my family and their close family would know, family and friends that passed away and it was headline news, around the country. So I've experienced every level of and grief and guilt that you could feel behind it. And so to really to take all that, concentrate it, and put it in the music the best that I could, was a big thing.
Which song is it that you really talk about that on the album?
Yeah, the half.
The half.
So when I say like the song that I was anxious and somewhat nervous to play for my parents,
right.
That's the half.
Because
you get real deep and transparent with family and loss in that one. Yeah. I
feel like this particular project, is very transparent. Is that just growth?
That's growth. That's been one of the points that I've needed to grow the most in my life.
It's hard.
Is being comfortable, being that vulnerable, and realizing that it's not. We think of like the opposite of strength is being vulnerable and crying and showing your quote unquote weakness. But I found that like I've been able to be more confident and get a response, of confidence and admiration in what I do by being more vulnerable.
Especially a black man in America and in hip hop.
Yeah.
In hip hop, yo, son, come on.
And that's what I'm proud about this project. And that's what's so difficult is because hip hop, it's a genre where you're supposed to be, I'm the man, I'm the best, I'm immovable, I'm a force.
Right.
But if you have an appreciation for amazing, songwriting and classic timeless records, you really need to get to that emotion and that feeling. So it's like, how am I still able to be like that dope MC who's on top of my game that's immovable, but also I want to make those records that tap into the emotion and are classic in that way. And that balance sometimes could be hard.
That's where greatness comes.
Exactly.
Right there.
And I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out as an artist. I'm figuring it out as a man.
Yeah. I mean, in life, not just in the making music, when we let ourselves be who we are and open ourselves up and not deal with the fear of, what people are going to say, that's when we're going to get the most, and we're giving the most to the universe, and then the universe will give it back to you. And I think that's what I got out of listening to your project is that I felt like, oh, this is different. This is growth, and I always I like, it's easy for us to say it. Yeah, we're doing this, but then when you do it, it's sure.
It's uncomfortable,
right?
It's like,
yeah. And so I appreciate that, and I felt that theme across the project, and family and spirituality, and and I'm a spiritual person. I'm not necessarily one to go up in church, but I believe there's something up there that handles us and takes care of us in whatever way they do, and I think that there's a group of people out here that probably your age, maybe younger, that feel the same way.
Yeah.
How do you deal with spirituality and God and all those kind of things?
Man, so
we're not supposed to talk about God, but
we can talk about God, and I've been talking about God in my regular life, in my music more than ever. My journey has been, I grew up, Christian, not super strict. Yeah. Actually, ironically, like my parents and my family, I'm an only child. Like we were some of the least church-going family members of our, larger family.
I don't feel that bad.
But and grew up and kind of did some searching on my own, and kind of gone in these waves of not being so religious, not being so intentional with my relationship with God. But I would say, even from when I grew up and I was going to church more with my parents, now is probably the most intentional I am about having a relationship with God.
Why?
And putting God's name in my raps, too.
Why? Why now?
It's actually connected to a lesson that I've had to learn, which has been being cool with letting go of control and having faith.
Yeah, religion has a lot of control.
Well, and that's ironic. It's ironic because for me, it's like letting go of control, like that I have to have all the control,
right?
And giving it up, to God.
Yeah.
And in that, like, my relationship, it's less dictated exactly how it's supposed to look. It's kind of crafted.
Right.
But it's intentional on my end.
Yeah.
For the first time.
You still got to do the work.
Yeah.
You can't just you're just not going to we're not going to just make you Miles Davis tomorrow.
Yeah. But it connects to faith. It connects to, like, living in the present.
Right.
I think because I think when you live in the present and there's the common thread from the top of the album to the end, it's just you got everything you need, go get everything you want.
Yeah.
And for me, that's living in faith. That's living in the present. Like, do I have everything I have now that I need? Okay, I'm good. Now I could, give all that other stuff that I'm worried about the future 2 years from now, give that to God.
Yeah.
I could be blessed. Yeah. I could be grateful for that. And now how can I enjoy my life? Like, I've always, my life, had no problem doing what I needed to do. Mm-hmm. Any sacrifice, time I got to put in, I've always been able to do that, no problem. Mm-hmm. Nobody would have to push me, self-motivated. Mm-hmm. And that's gotten me to where I am today. But I'm also like, how do I, like, be a little bit lighter, let go of that? Am I good now? Don't worry about next week. Like, you put in all the work to be able to enjoy now.
Well, like I tell people, we only have this second right now.
Yeah.
This is all we got.
Yeah.
It's me and you here doing this interview. And the people watching us, this is all we got right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen 2 minutes from now.
Exactly.
so but that's a good thing is keeping it in the now, because it's too much of a strain, I think, on people, to try and control everything or think and worry about what's happening tomorrow, what bills we got, what illnesses do we have, whatever it is, and this is clearly when I do interviews, I keep it like a normal conversation. We don't necessarily have to talk about music, because I think that people are going to fall in love with you before they even hear the music, and that's fine, But I tell people all the time, I say, look, you can't control. I can't control what my kids do. I can't control what my wife does. You can't control what your girlfriend, your boyfriend does. Whoever it is, they're gonna do whatever you're gonna do. Only thing you have somewhat of control over is yourself.
Yeah.
And so in listening to music, I don't. I found that over the last couple of years, I don't listen to hip hop radio on hip hop on the radio. Mm-hmm. Because I know how it works now, because I've worked there, and I know that it's programmed for us to listen to these 10 songs. Yeah. And and now my wife, she listens to it. She's in the car. She know all of the ratchet songs. She know every song, and I'm aware of them. And I'm not saying that this wrong.
Balance.
It's balanced.
Yeah.
I'm a Sexy Red fan. I'm like, man, have you ever been to St. Louis? She is St. Louis. She sounds and talks just like St. Louis. And I have no problem with that. So I appreciate her. But I also feel like there's, like you said, a balance. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we always had in coming up. So my mind is still got that balance. So if it's finding music on SoundCloud, or if it's finding music on, whatever, YouTube, or some movies, I've been like, who's that? Like, I have my Shazam, hold it, what's that? In the background playing, and I've come across a lot of new music like that. What are the ways that you get your music out there now? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's on all the platforms.
Yeah, it's on all the platforms.
But tell me about the process in getting the music out that you maybe do different than you used to do.
Man,
you put out vinyl.
I do have some vinyl.
I'm happy.
I do have some vinyl.
I just want to throw that out there.
I had a little connect out in Europe. Was able to give a small.
Big up all my vinyl heads. Got 45s. I was playing it last week. We revisited, because I knew we was getting ready to do this. Yeah. And so anyways.
But what's interesting? Actually, live settings, interestingly enough, has been big for me, and that comes from you mentioned kind of like that hip hop jazz intersection that I operate in.
Is that a thing? Right now,
it's a thing. It's been a thing. Well, that's the thing. It's as like a phenomenon that you name. It's a thing, and it's had its errors, but it's always been family, hip hop and jazz.
Well, yeah, they both came from the hood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They both started as party music for us.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. People hear that like Notorious B.I.G. was influenced by Donald Harrison,
the guy who lives on his block,
or that Rakim got his flow from listening to John Coltrane, and they think like, how is that possible? Because they're so different. It's like, no, they are at the core the same thing. It's the same place. And so I feel like I've been able to operate as like a living example of that and work with some incredible musicians that a lot of people know as jazz.
Yeah.
But they love hip hop. They integrate it all together. People like Marcus Strickland, saxophone player producer Maurice Brown, Nate Smith, Nicholas Payton, Marcus Machado.
Yes.
It just goes on. And from being on the bandstand with them and their audience is able to intrigue people. So I've been able to like plug a lot of people that way, which has been cool.
Have you used any of these folks to come in on your album?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so tell us about some of the folks, and let me talk about some of the songs.
Yeah.
We've been talking, but we haven't talked about all the songs.
Yeah, so I mean, on this album, I have Marcus Machado. He's a guitar player, if you know, 13 with Pharoah Monch and Daru Jones. Daru Jones I've also worked with. He plays in that, but he makes beats, so he's got a beat on the album, the song Beaming.
Oh, yes, one of my favorites on there.
Yeah. I shout out to Cartoons.
Right, is there a female on Beaming?
Yeah,
too?
Aaron Maya.
Right.
Aaron Maya, incredible, beautiful voice on it. Yeah, you got Cartoons, who's a bassist.
Yeah.
Bassist producer, has been doing his thing. He had his Tiny Desk drop earlier this year. He's got, some production on that. I've done songs not on the album, but I put out a song called One with Marcus Strickland.
Yes.
Who's a saxophone player, producer, that I think is like a real dope lead into the album of just seeing how much I can stretch with my ability. That's the really cool thing about this album and making it over 3 years and some change.
Right.
And still releasing music is outwardly people are like, oh, he's here, but I'm stretching and I'm here already.
Right, because you did this in 2021 is when you did this?
That's when I started,
Right.
And it's been a constant like process. And so things have come out. Like, we met with the album that came out in 2022. I put out another album in 2022. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, I'm like, I'm pushing myself to grow even here.
Right.
Which has been really cool and exciting because people respond to what I put out in 2022 and 2023. And I'm like, they don't even know.
Right. You got something
I've been
else.
pushing my voice and my songwriting to do this.
And Paul Bloom, is that?
Paul Bloom, I got to shout out to
the
Paul
resident
Bloom.
Producer.
Yeah, I've been working with Paul. I've been working with Paul Bloom. I've just been growing as like a friend, with Paul Bloom for years.
What's his history?
Man, so I met him through Marcus Machado.
Okay.
He is a keyboard player. Does not do much hip hop production outside of working with me. He's got a PhD in like neuroscience, as well. And we've just been able to grow. From working like together, like he doesn't just send me beats. Like since 2021, I don't know how many dozens of times we sat down in his apartment and started cranking out ideas from scratch with me kind of guiding him with the arrangement. And
that's good though.
And building like that and building as people. It's funny. His girlfriend went from girlfriend to fiance to now wife.
Wow.
In this era that we made this album.
Wow. Yeah, so that's always interesting. Yeah,
so we've grown as people, and the foundation of working with him was able to grow what this album was going to look like from the beginning.
And so, and there's some other producers on there. Who was something interesting? Cartoon?
Cartoons, Marcus Machado.
Yeah.
Vicky Cassis, who is actually Marcus Machado's sister.
Oh, okay.
Too. Just really dope. Got Sly Fifth Avenue. Sly Fifth Ave, I should say.
Okay.
Who I put out an album with as well. He played with Prince. He plays with Ghost Note. He's composed for orchestra.
Yeah.
I think that's all the Black Samurai.
Okay.
Who's a drummer producer that I toured out in Italy and in France playing drums, and he made a beat that he started crafting when we were on tour in France last year that turned into a song.
Wow.
So it's cool, and it's all family. It's people I have a relationship with.
So there are people that love, boom bap era, right?
Yeah.
And it's changed, it's morphed, it's done, clearly that was in late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And it's changed. What does it sound like now? I mean, I feel like in listening to your project, that is what it sounds like new.
Yeah.
Like it's not, a loop. It's not that.
Yeah. And I love, there's boom bap hip hop that I love, but I always want to like push it. So I think if you're a fan of that and you love DJ Premier and Pete Rock production, you could appreciate this.
Yes.
But it goes beyond that. Like you said, the producers I'm working with are musicians. Like they, outside of hip hop production, they'll craft songs that have so many phases and changes and bridges. So they're like, how do we develop this song? I come from what I listened to growing up. jazz records, funk records, all that stuff. That's beyond just looping. So my mindset is on that as well. So I think that's what's brilliant about this, and I love about this, is it hits. It's got the hip hop beats, but it's got melodies. It's got progressions.
Yeah.
It's got the music that's able to play and interact with what I'm doing vocally. So it's not just here. Like, it's got peaks. It's got values. It's living. It's life.
One of my favorite songs is the one with Eric Roberson.
Yeah, Superman.
Yeah, Superman.
I love that.
Because that's us, and it's a song for men,
Yeah.
And tell us about that. Why?
Superman is exactly how I feel. It's exactly how I feel. You want to do everything for everybody and yourself. You're like, how can I be the best friend and son and cousin and brother? And then how can I also excel and be the greatest of all time in my career?
Right.
And have empathy for everybody. And it's like impossible to do all of that, especially if you don't take a break. You just want to put it down. And Eric is someone that, through family, through my father, I've known since I was like in middle school.
Oh, really?
And I think it's perfect that we finally collaborated on this song. Like, when it was coming together, that's when I sat down with Paul and we crafted, in his apartment. And I was like, Eric can relate to this. He's going on 30 years being, one of the most, if not the most successful independent soul artists, ever.
Yeah.
Written for stars. He's also a father multiple times over. Juggling all of those, I know a taste of that. I'm not a father yet. I'm not a husband yet. And so I was like, I think he's gonna get it. He's gonna be perfect to be on this.
So when you approached him, like, what was his thoughts?
His thoughts were, I told him about the concept before he heard it, and he was like, that's perfect. Ironically, he has a song called Superman already that he wrote, and I forgot about that when I first reached out to him, but he wrote it, Glenn Lewis sang it first.
Oh, really?
It was with the playlist sessions that they have with Jazzy Jeff, and he's in that mix. So they had a version with Glenn Lewis first, then he put out a version himself. But ironically, that Superman was talking about people who don't see themselves as having superpowers and saying, no, you should see yourself as Superman.
Right.
This was like, you see yourself as Superman, but remember, you are also still just a human being, and there's only so much that you could do. Right.
And I feel like, when I talk to, I work with, kids in the community, especially the men, like, young men.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to engage a lot of times because they just don't want to deal with it. They like, no, I'd rather not. Yo, what's up with that girl? No, I'd rather not. Yo, what's up with this? I don't really want to be involved. It's much easier to pick up the remote and and play a video game, and I don't have to engage like that. And I'm not saying all, so please don't say that Ralph said that. But I'm saying some of the young men that I meet, and some that want to, they want to do something with their life, if it's make music or if it's be a doctor or if it's whatever it is. But they don't want to engage, and it's sometimes difficult for them to make these moves in life to move forward. And you now are talking about, I'm taking on all of this.
Yeah.
And dealing with it. And so the young man who's, not doing that, how do we approach that person? How do we get them motivated? Because you didn't have any problem. You just said that I got no problem with doing the work. I'll go in the studio and do hours and go on the road and do. How do we get that young person, in the mix?
Yeah. Well, I think having like a purpose is really a big thing about it. And the purpose is not just what you do, but like the why. And I think that's what's helped me in being easy to like have that drive to do the work, is I've understood like my place.
Well, how did you identify, okay, this is the purpose?
I think it energizes you in a certain way. Not just the fame part of it, but being able to reach people a certain way with my words.
Right.
I have a journalism background. I've written actually like hundreds of articles.
Right.
And so even being able to storytell.
You got to storytell.
Yeah.
Right.
Even in that context, even help tell other people's stories. And just the way that I'm able to touch however it is, I just know that power with words to take, to observe and absorb, and then tell the story in a certain way is like connected to my power and how I'm able to reach and touch people.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to identify, because you have something to say. I think everybody has something to say, just don't know how to formulate it. And so for people that are watching, just whatever it is, it might be, how to walk dogs or how to make dogs be nice. Whatever it is, and some people have talent at that, and nobody taught them anything. They just know, just do it like this. Yeah. And they just know. So being able to communicate what God has given you, or whoever you look at as your higher being has given you, and then formulate that and put that out into the world, into an album, into a performance, into art, into whatever it is that you do, is where you kind of find your purpose.
Yeah, and you'll feel like that fire, from it too. Like to finish this project, to finish you never really know. Right. And to know that it's not just the album just for like the sonic purpose, but this is really like my journey as a man the past few years, and I feel like I perfectly encapsulated it in this album that was created from nothing. Yeah. Like the thrill, the fire that I feel, I'm like, this is deeply connected to what I'm supposed to be doing.
Let's talk about some of the other tracks on the other songs on the album. Your favorites.
Oh, some of my favorites. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start with the top. Everything you need, like we talked about.
There's two versions.
There's two versions, and there's the interlude in the middle that's got like the melody from it to call back. And it was funny when you were talking about the radio programming, like that's the programming of the album. And the way that I have it, like every time you hear those words, you hear the melody, it's like a snap. It's like hypnotizing you. So that's my programming to tell you got everything you need, go get everything you want. Have that confidence, have that faith. So I love setting that message from the top.
I like the acapella version of it. Well, I don't know if it's an acapella.
Well, the piano.
Yeah. That's at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one. So like it was like almost like please.
Yeah, and it's me pleading to the listener to get it. Yeah. And it's me pleading to myself to get it.
Right. Oh, okay.
That's why you hear like the passion behind it, because I want the listener to get it, but also for myself. And that's why you could hear, I did it in a way where I'm tearing up because it's like I'm telling myself.
Yeah. I heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was clear, like, after about the third time you said it, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. He's talking to me.
And it was cool because even how that came, like those different versions of the same song came because I was working that closely with Paul. Because we were literally working on the first version of the song and he's adding little piano parts and I'm like, wait, what if we stripped it down to just that? And we were gonna first have where I did the whole song with the whole verse over the piano, and he was like, I don't know, I feel like it's stronger if you just stick to the chorus part. And I was like, I think you're right.
That was very Stevie Wonder of you.
That's one of my. I will take a Stevie Wonder comparison any day.
It's like I said, for folks that love hip hop music. Love jazz music, love progressive music that has no name. I think that you need to definitely go out and download the album and listen to it, or go to your SoundCloud, whatever it is, just get it somehow or another. Steal it from somebody, get it however you get it.
You saying steal? I said they should buy it on Bandcamp. How about that?
Okay, there it is. Hey, look, I back in the days, I was definitely downloading, off of those sites.
But honestly, if somebody hears about it, they hear what you say, they hear what somebody else says, and it's strong enough that they got to get their hands on it and they got to download it. I still appreciate that too. You figured out a way to get it.
D&D.
D&D, yeah.
What is that?
That is actually I love that record.
I love it too.
As of right now, and it's changes. You work on a project for so long, your favorites change. That might be currently my favorite song.
Oh, okay.
It's also one of 2 records that I wrote on there, different from any other record on that, and different from how I normally write.
Yes.
In that I started writing it a cappella. So if you hear DND, like that first, I don't know, 12 bars or so, that's kind of like the hook.
Yeah.
I wrote that to no beat.
Okay.
Just like, this is what I got to say. I was literally putting my phone on Do Not Disturb more than I ever had before. And I sent that a cappella to Vicky Cassis. She started building a beat around it. And then from that, I wrote more over that. And so I love that because it's a hard hip-hop record with the beat.
Yep.
But it's also very honest to what I'm going through, what I was going through. It's got melodic elements.
What does D&D mean?
Do Not Disturb.
Oh, okay.
So like putting your phone on.
Because I was trying to figure it out. I was like,
you got to connect with Gen Z.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I'm OG Ralph sometimes. I'm OG Ralph all the time. How about that?
Yeah.
So, but I get
but I love that. I've been using D&D a lot these days. TNT, the industry, to plot these days. Yeah.
You know what's funny? There was a studio back in the days that people used to record at. Premiere did a lot of stuff there. It was called D&D Studio.
Okay, actually, I have heard about that. Yeah.
Right, they put out their own albums. Lord Finesse, all these incredible artists.
Yeah.
Put out a ton of music out of that space. KRS-One, and so for you to say D&D, which had nothing to do with any of that,
but it's still
in that space, it automatic. My reference was D&D Studio.
Wow.
But I knew you weren't talking about that.
Yeah.
But it just was that was my first reference.
Cool.
Cool. So for the heads that know, they'll probably do the same thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll take any extra props. Give it to me.
They still got D&D up in here. It was like the most dusty studio. You could get robbed coming out of there. It was in Times Square. It was the worst.
Yeah.
But a lot of great music came out of that space.
Dope.
Great music. What else?
But yeah, so that I say like that record and then Bear With Me was also written similarly. In that Bear With Me, I wrote the whole thing a cappella. And what I wanted to do, experimenting that way, writing first and then getting the music later, is sometimes you have things you really need to say.
Right.
And I care about how I fit in the music. So sometimes you might get the music and it might be close to what you want to say, but you want to fit with the music, so you let it veer off. Gotcha. And it's like 90% of what you want to say. So I said, what if I do it a cappella? I say exactly what I need to say, the way that I need to say it, and then we build the music around it. So Bear With Me was one that I was like, I just need to say this. And it's basically like a letter to the ones that I love, saying bear with me. Like I'm trying to be Superman. I'm trying to be all these things. I'm doing the best that I can. Bear with me. And I came with that a cappella. I sat down with Paul Bloom, and he just, on the loop, I repeated that whole verse, 10, 15 times, and he just played piano underneath me until we felt together a form. And that was one of the songs that we intentionally recorded that with him playing at the same time as me rapping it, so that it could really feel like the way that I'm building vocally, he's building piano-wise.
That's not normal.
I know it's not normal.
Right.
I don't want to be normal.
Right. Wow. That's pretty.
So when I say this album was really it was crafted, so it was very intentional. And even Bear With Me coming after DND is like, I got my phone on Do Not Disturb, so bear with me.
Right.
I got it on Do Not Disturb for these reasons.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Still
is the earliest song to actually make the album. So Still was made probably around 3 years ago. There were other songs that we thought was going to make the album even several months before that. Still was one that actually Paul sent to me. It was funny. He's like I said, he's classically trained piano player, but he got his hands on an MPC and he was excited. He was like, yo, Jay, he's like, Jay, I finally got the MPC. Like, these are the first 3 beats I made. And I was listening to them as just like, I just want to hear what my man made on the MPC. And for some reason, that beat, I was like, I think I could do something with it. And I was like, I'm going to do something with it later. But then things started coming. So I think I could do something with it right now.
He was probably excited about that.
Yeah. And so he sent me these beats just to say, this is what I did with the MPC.
Right.
And I think an hour and a half later, I sent him back the whole recording of what you hear me doing on the song.
Oh yeah, no, he was ecstatic.
And it's like, in some ways it's the jazziest record because it's in, for people who know, it's in 5, it's an odd meter, which is more what you'll hear in jazz than you hear in hip hop form. And it's really like it actually started as was going to be the intro track to the album. And you hear, I mentioned You Never Really Know. I had the title,
right.
4 or 5 years. And I mentioned some of the themes, like in just like words and motifs I was going to talk about at the album. And just as 3 years of developing, chipping away at what the album was going to be, it found its way as like a good almost closer, before that that outro. Amma What is incredible vocalist, pen, writer. She works with Nate Smith and Ken Folk, who's one of my favorite artists. Family I've worked with before. And that was actually it's funny, that was the song we first did, but adding her was one of the last things that we added on the record because we knew the song was going to be on it. But it's like, it needs something in that last like 30 seconds. What does it need? It's like, Amma.
Do you balance, how do you balance out jazz and hip hop? Like the amount of...
That I listen to or that I put
into your project?
Oh, I just do what feels right to me.
Okay.
I know people have come to know me because of how a lot of people are introduced to me on the bandstand at places like Blue Note and jazz festivals.
Right.
They're like, oh, you're the hip hop jazz, guy.
Right.
But I just like.
But you got jazz enthusiasts who are like, well, it's not really jazz.
Yes.
Not really jazz.
But
not really hip hop.
It's funny. I did something with Talib Kweli. He's always at Blue Note, and so a lot of people in his band are people that I perform with, and so I wound up in a cipher with him and Wordsworth and some people in Punchline. And I remember there was somebody who saw the video and was like, "This is what they're doing at Blue Note now. This isn't jazz. Why do they have this?" They don't understand the connection, really. But I would say what I do love about what I do is jazz and hip hop in the purest way of how it's connected, in that it doesn't sound like recording a jazz quartet and just sampling it to make a jazz record. It sounds like all the ways that they naturally are, just in the essence and in the spirit made, that they're connected. And so that's what I love about it. It might be an odd meter, but the instrumentation is more like hip hop production. Yeah. And that's how you show it.
And it must move forward. We have to continue to keep pushing it forward. Whatever that is, hip hop has to be pushed forward. Like, we have to go through whatever we're going through in 2024 to get to whatever we're all going to collectively feel is, oh, that's it.
And actually, that's a big part of what connects jazz and hip hop. I think is more than most genres, innovation is at the spirit of those two. And that's what I think frustrates a lot of musicians that are under jazz, is people try to say like, oh, jazz sounds like it did in the 60s. And it's like, no, the idea about jazz is that it never only sounds like it did back then. Yeah. And the same with hip hop.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that in the United States, is it like that in other parts of the world?
In other parts of the world, they love like the essence of things, so it's not articulated the same way.
They didn't quite get everything that we had here.
So it's like they're still like, that's why you see like artists that were their heyday was 94, 95. They're like, we love this and we want the sound. But they are also open to seeing how it expands, like being able to do projects like I did with Michael Lennart, where he's a trumpeter who does orchestra stuff, and I come in doing the emceeing, and we do one of the biggest jazz festivals in France, and received a certain way is really cool, because I think that's where it's going, and to see it received overseas and even here too in places is great too.
What are some of the countries that you get the most gigs at? Like, they really, this is it, it's happening, or you look forward to going there?
I've been fortunate. I was in France twice last year, which was really dope. I haven't been to Japan, but I see the numbers. I sell vinyl in Japan. I would say like half to 75% of the vinyls I ship out of the country are to Japan.
Yeah, love hip hop.
UK as well. Has really been big. So that's a few.
Even though you have a lot of tradition and you've been doing this for a minute.
Yeah.
But where are we going next?
Where are we going next? I think a big part of where I think we're going next is genres kind of not meaning much.
How about that?
I think, and it's funny, it's actually not even that new. I just think it's amplified even more. But I was watching, man, what was it? It was some award show from like the mid 90s. And it was funny because like there was like Boys to Men, one of their super popular songs. They won in like a category that was like best R&B group song, and then best pop group song, and then best rock group song. And it was just like a perfect illustration of where I feel like we are today. It's like depending on what you want to do, how you want to market it, you could put it here, you could put it here, you could put it here. And I feel like more and more artists, whether they're making the type of music you like to listen to or not, are like, I don't want to label my thing anything.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of where we're going, in a beautiful way too.
I mean, if you look at like what, let's say the most popular hip hop artists right now, let's say Drake and Kendrick, or in Future, like what is that? Like they clearly it's three different things.
Yeah. Very, and that's why even, and this is more talking about what I do and am as opposed to like the genre, but like I'll say like I'm an MC,
right?
And I MC because I recognize like when you say like I make rap music,
right?
There's a section of people who love rap music, but their pinnacle is what Future does,
right?
And to your point, that's so different from what I do. It might as well be country music,
right?
And so that's why I kind of stick to I'm an MC, I'm a storyteller. Those type of things that paint the picture of what I do could kind of give you an idea of what I do.
Right.
But as far as label it, can you say my album is a hip-hop album? I mean, maybe you can't exactly say that.
Right.
You
either like it or you don't.
Yeah. And if you're someone who always thought you loved hip-hop albums, you might love it. If you're someone who always thought you loved jazz albums, you might love it.
Well, I think those titles and genres exist for people who make money off of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
When you walk into this, at this stage of the game, you probably are, okay, we're going to make some money, we go on the road. That's your, I don't know about selling. We're gonna make some money on the road for sure. We're going to get some gigs. I can line that up. And, but in the beginning, it was just like, I just want to do this because it's something I need to do.
Exactly.
And still now, because you wouldn't be doing it. You'd just be like, I want to do something else. I'm done. I mean, to me, there's things I used to do when I was, 30 that I'm like, I'm not interested in doing that anymore. Like, I have no interest in doing it. Like, you used to always, I don't do it anymore. I don't do it anymore. I don't know why. One day it was like, no, I'm not doing that no more.
Gotcha.
And so these things, as we grow, these things happen and you find, solace in something else. Because, at the end of the day, we all want to be happy, and money's not necessarily going to make you happy.
It's true.
Make you a little comfortable so you can do certain things, but it's definitely not going to make you happy, and for people that are out there and that are listening and watching, this is something that I feel like is going to make you happy, this project right here.
I love it. That's I think somebody that got an early listen to it, a good friend, they said they heard it and it made them lighter after listening to it. Yeah. And I love that too. I want people, when they hear it, I want them to feel like the journey. I think you feel like the heaviness of what I talk about, but it's in a way that's like, yes, life is heavy, that's a part of it, but it's not wallowing in that either. It's like all of that is part of it, but it's still beautiful. You still have everything you need. Yeah. You can still live the highest, most fulfilling life with all that being true, and you don't need to hide it. Right. And so I think at the end, it's like I let people know, like, I have this baggage, like you have this baggage, but it doesn't need to weigh you down.
I felt like this only a couple of times. There's only a few, like there's records that I heard, albums that I've heard that I was like, wow, this is hard. This is this is that. And it made me feel like listening to Public Enemy. I could still listen to Public Enemy for a healthy aggression. Like Chuck D. When he talks, when he raps, I should say, I was like, Jesus, that's me. Yeah. And I think that feels the same way. I felt the same way. Because when I first started listening to your record, the TV was on, and I had to turn the TV off. And I'm a TV addict. Like, I watch news, and why I do it to myself. I just frustrate myself by watching the news. But I was like, what did he just say? Yeah. Like, let me go back and listen to that. Because I didn't want to lose. How long is the whole project?
The whole project is 33 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't want to lose nothing out of the 33 minutes.
And I love the way it's crafted, even talking about like the songs, like from the top. We got the everything you need, and then coming in out of bounds, and it's and it's like and I love like the balance I've been able to find, like with the track like Out of Bounds that's produced by Sly Fifth Ave, that it is lyrical. Like, I feel like I'm doing, phenomenal things flow-wise and metaphorically, but it also gets your body moving. It's got, instrumental interlude that'll take you to a whole different place, feel like a different genre. But I definitely wanted to start off the album hitting you with stuff that is, it's catchy, it gives you a vibe, your body is into it, it grabs you. And then we could really get into like the deep subject matter, from that. But that's all part of the journey.
One other song I want to make note of for folks listening, Make Space.
Make Space, yeah.
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 It stood out to me.
And I wanted to, like any human being, like love, man, you think about women, all that, all the time. But that's something that honestly I haven't talked about as much in my projects. I think that's something, unfortunately, when you get into like, I'm a lyrical, hip hop, or, it's like, oh, the love songs are pop and that's not me. But it's real.
It's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
And so I love it. It's an honest record. I think it's love talked about in a way that is specific to how I've dealt with this. Make space is the idea of like, I need to make space. I'm doing, again, Superman, you're doing everything, but I'll make space for you. It's a danceable record. Your body gets into it. It's something that could play in the club. It's got a little chicken noodle soup, kind of shout out element, in it. Shout out to Demi Grace, on it as well. I knew I needed a singing voice on it, and I got exactly what I needed, with that too from hers. And that's an important record that is an example of the type of record you might not have heard from me in the past, but it's still me.
It fits.
And that's one of the things I love about this record, and what I keep doing with my career, is it's always me, but I think it's like, oh, I didn't know Jay could do that like that. Oh, I didn't know he could do...
Nah, man, go ahead, do it, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's my favorite thing, is it gives you some stuff that you might not have known I had in the arsenal.
No, I'm waiting for the Latin jazz one you do. I'm waiting for that. And I mean, you grew up in Harlem.
I didn't grow up in Harlem.
You live in Harlem.
I live in Harlem. It's adopted me. Yeah.
Like there's so much culture in Harlem. And I always, when I get kind of stuck creatively, I'm like, let me just go uptown, and I could just walk through Harlem blocks and be inspired by the people, by the dress, by the overall vibe, and go like, okay, I'm back. Yeah. All right, got it. You know, that's what that does. So environment is important. Yeah. The people you're around is important, because if you're around some negative energy, you know, and sometimes you don't even know it. It could be a family member. Like, yo, what's up? Like, what's going on? Then one day you wake up and like, you really are negative. Like you wake up with a bad attitude every day. Like, and I've been living with you for 15 years. Like, what's going on? So we have to be mindful of the environment that we live in, what we listen to, and like I think that's why I felt happy, because sometimes I listen to bad stuff. I mean, I know it's bad, and I go like, okay.
Well, it all serves its purpose. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm crazy like that, but I think that we have a balance of it, and we listen to what we want to listen to, and then I'm able to turn it off and go into something else. I'm driving here, I'm listening to soul music, 60s, 70s soul music, like that, which I love, and I think that your music fits into all of that, because it's all one, whatever makes you feel. If it's Marvin Gaye, if it's JSWISS, if it's J. Cole, if it's whoever it is.
Yeah, you could play all that back to back.
Yeah. Yeah, So thank you for your contributions, sir.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you for your contributions. You got a few.
Yeah, I got a couple. I got a couple.
In this game, I appreciate all the things that I've appreciated about making this project, about being proud with it being done.
Yes.
I feel like you able to recognize too the fact that it is moving it forward. Yeah. And I don't want to, in the essence of the album, stay in the present, but I am excited. I'm excited about this, and also as an artist who wants to keep pushing it, I'm like, man, I wonder what the next album is going to sound like. I know there's going to need to be more life lived, before the next one. But if this was able to get this,
just do it however it comes out, bro. Yeah. You could create 4 or 5 albums for our kid. Just keep on doing it.
And there's a lot of material. Like this album, I've recorded more ideas that didn't make the cut than any other album. But those are all super important.
That's how life is.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you got to date 10 women to find out which one, or 10 men, whoever it is, to find out which one is the one.
Yeah,
you know, and you go through whatever the process is, and you know, and that's okay, because all of that is a gift that, you know, has been given to you. Some people don't have that ability to do that. So thank you once again. Thank you for everybody for checking in. Ralph McDaniels here at JSWISS. The new album is called You Never Really Know, and you never really know. You never
really know what day is going to be your last day. You never really know what somebody else is going through. So, you know, you live life with empathy and you live it to the fullest. Yeah. That's the lesson.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.